What are some red flags in an interview that reveals the job is toxic? Number 1.
We'll start you at minimum and reevaluate in a month.
Number 2. In one interview, I was enthusiastically assured that overtime wasn't an issue, but if you pick up an extra shift, they pay in gift cards so that it saves you on taxes. I know they're trying to save themselves employment taxes and time and a half. They're not doing me any favors. I declined their offer. Number 3. I always ask everyone in the room when their last vacation was. Number 4. When I mentioned the company's dismal Glassdoor evaluations, they became so enraged that they ended the interview. Well, I suppose I escaped that danger. Number 5. I brought up a company's poor Glassdoor reviews during an interview before too. They were all complaining about the owner of a small company. The folks interviewing me looked at each other and said that the owner could be difficult, but he's in Mexico most of the time, so I'd never have to see him. I accepted the job because I was desperate, but sadly, that was around the time the owner decided to stay around and get his hands in everything. I was only there for 8 months, and I think 5 people left before I did because of him. Number 6. Happened to me while interviewing before my current job. Position was advertised at a certain range. I asked for right in the middle of that range, which I thought was fair since I had about 5 years more experience than the minimum they asked for. I'm officially certified, and it was for a position where I would have to create the entire department around it since it was new to their growth. They offered the position at the minimum of the range they posted. Well, joke was on them. I interviewed a day before they made the offer with my current company, and they offered $8,000 more right at the gate. When I tried to negotiate, the guy would not budge. Made the right choice, and 2.5 years later, still with my company, and got a promotion and a huge raise at the 2-year mark. Number 7. I declined a job offer once because they tried to sneak in a lowball salary on the offer letter. It was $10,000 less than what we discussed in my final interview. When it was obvious that they were really interested in me, I took the risk of negotiating with my existing company to see what I could get. They ended up offering me the more than I discussed with the new company to stay, so I accepted and let the recruiter know that I was no longer interested. The site manager, who was obviously annoyed that I declined, called saying that if it was only about the money, they would pay more. It felt pretty good to tell him, no thanks. Number 8. The interviewer keeps telling you how fortunate you are to be there, like they're doing you a favor by giving you the job. Number 9. Worked for a dude once, and I overheard him down the hall talking to a client. The client had said something really nice about how pleasantly I worked the desk, but then my boss countered saying,
Well, she should be happy. She gets paid more than I do to sit around.
Not only did he get 2.5 times more than me for the hours worked, but there was so much more. Bro, I single-handedly updated all your computers, learned how to do x-rays because you didn't feel like doing them anymore, shoveled when we got shit on by a blizzard, kept the place clean and effing sanitized every single day, handled every not fun business call with no support, and listened to you abuse your poor sweet wife every day. I left that place as soon as I could. Dude was a sociopath. Number 10. I'm a teacher. My last principal reminded us in every meeting, usually more than once a month, how lucky we are to be working there. My new principal starts every meeting, 2 per semester, by telling us that we are talented enough to work anywhere and he's honored that we chose to work with, not for, him. It's a drastic and beautiful change. My new school mostly was hiring because the district was growing and they simply needed more teachers. My last school was hiring because they had a 50% turnover rate. Number 11. I applied to a position at a state and was offered the position during the phone interview. When asked when I could start, I replied 2 weeks, but stated I couldn't accept without knowing how much it paid and having in an official letter and email. This dude lost his shit and said all huffy puffy,
Well, I mean, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I guess if you have to know, I can get that for you.
I said, yes, I have to know. He said he'd call me back. He never did. Number 12. Once I had an interview where they suddenly gave me the questionnaire to fill out for 50 questions and I just went to another room. The questions were very detailed and stupid, mostly about money.
Is your goal to make money in our company?
If the answer is yes, then you didn't pass. I left before I even finished answering this list. And then I found out that they register employees for an incredibly low official salary, promising to pay most of it at the end of the month, but they delayed money for 6 months and don't give it out if the person quit. Number 13. I interviewed for one once where the manager spent the whole time asking me the usual questions in between rounds of berating some poor tech support employee on the phone about their payroll software. Also, anytime a hiring manager talks up the company's bonuses and raises to justify their low salary, you'd better believe you're not actually getting either. Number 14. I had an interview for a security company and it was flags everywhere. Flags usually present themselves when it's your turn to ask questions. There's a lot of report writing for the job. We had to submit a writing sample. I asked if they had any feedback on my submission.
I read so many last week I can't remember, but if there was anything wrong with it, we wouldn't be talking. We have to write a lot of reports, so if you can't write, then I won't hire you. I don't have time to teach someone how to write.
Okay, not even a glance at their submission before interviewing someone, and an unwillingness to train employees on a very important part of the job. I was told they lost a few employees quickly.
Dropping like flies,
was how it was told to me pre-interview. I asked what was the reason they lost their last few employees.
Better opportunities.
Short, no elaboration, summing up pretty much several employees left for the same reason. I know there's a lot of burnout and turnover in the industry caused by low wages, bad hours, and overwork. I asked what the company does to retain its employees.
If you come and talk to us, we can help figure something out, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
So no incentives to stay, just to focus on getting employees back to work if they have difficulty or they need more. No active approach to give you a reason to stay, but just giving you a reason not to leave. I asked what the work culture was like.
We have a family-like environment. We work hard and play hard.
That speaks for itself. I highly recommend in any interview to try ask probing questions. Try to see how willing they are to answer your questions. Short, generic answers are not a good sign, but not a deal breaker, but a big flag if they actually don't answer your question. For example, when I asked what they did to retain employees, they essentially told me how they can get people back to working. Remember, you are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. Number 15. I did an interview 2 days ago and the red flags I saw were 1. Not sticking to the agreed upon time that they chose. We began 40 minutes late. 2. They were rushing through the questions and kept saying they were short on time. 3. What's your current salary? 4.
Don't expect the standard 8 to 4. This position requires long hours, some weekends, and public holidays. We need to make sure you understand this. And also, are you married or got any kids?
5. Listing responsibilities not mentioned at all in the job description. As an insights analyst, why would I have to do the site visits? 6. I pulled out a small book with my questions. They looked nervous because short on time and they kept saying they were hungry and didn't eat all day. 7. Asking me for ideas on how to improve their app. How would I go about starting this one specific project and more. They don't explain their business clearly, neither do they give you good clarity on your role. Number 16. I once had an interview with a small company. The director who took my interview was being very vague about what they do. Most of her answers were,
"You'll understand better once you start working."
I took the offer, worked for a week, and realized it's just a pyramid scheme. Number 17. Oh man, I'm a nanny, so I get some of the weirdest interview questions. It's not HR, it's Lisa, the stay-at-home mom with her first baby. A big trigger in the nanny world? Light housekeeping. If you get asked to do some light housekeeping, it means they want you to be their maid as well. So any downtime, they expect you to be vacuuming, doing laundry, dishes, That's the question that seems to be innocent, but is a huge red flag. Other interview red flags?
Do you have a boyfriend? Do you expect payment during nap time or bedtime? We practice gentle parenting and expect you to do the same.
Fine in theory means the kids will do whatever they want. I also had one lady during an interview start breastfeeding, which is fine. She took her entire shirt off though and stopped the interview for it. So for 15 minutes I'm sitting in silence watching this lady breastfeeding. After kiddo was done, she continued the interview topless. Number 18. This might be too specific, but I saw several red flags the last times I interviewed and one before even walking in. I interviewed at 2 companies that both had me talk to multiple people, specifically the office manager. One also had a higher level manager present, my potential department head, if it wasn't the managers, a recruiter, and 1 or 2 people either work in my department or doing a similar role. At both companies, only the recruiters seemed to be in a good mood, almost too happy. The management and staff looked absolutely miserable and completely uninterested in interviewing me. First red flag. Thinking too much interpretation, everybody was overworked and miserable, and the recruiters were just happy to have people interviewing. I asked them if any special licenses or registrations were required for the job, which they said
No.
And one employee accidentally let on that I was the most licensed candidate they'd interviewed. Second red flag? The job would have very little to do with my credentials, even though the listing said they were
a plus to have.
The third red flag was combining 2 things that a manager said.
You have to be adaptable and be ready to take on tasks that may not be part of your daily duties. We're looking for someone passionate about the industry, not a 9-to-5 clock puncher.
In other words, I'm going to work more than 8 hours a day and probably do other people's jobs. Also, 0th red flag, the entire job, per the description, was something that the company I worked at had made completely obsolete with software generating paperwork for clients to sign when they open new accounts. When I asked the manager about the risk of being outsourced, she gave me a very political non-answer like,
We are aware of advances in technology causing changes within the industry. Our company will assess whether these changes are beneficial or not.
Red. You'll likely be laid off within the next software update. Number 19. I was desperate for a job, so I had to take it, but there were so many red flags in the interview and first week that I started looking for another job immediately. 1. Interviewed me on a Saturday by phone. This is a Monday to Friday job, so just interviewing me on Saturday was weird. I figured it was just a courtesy interview with the real interview being in person later. Nope. He offered me a job on the spot, but said that I had to start on Monday or else no offer. Again, I was desperate. I was warned that my then current employer was going to be laying off people, so I took it. 2. I showed up on Monday at 8:15 a.m. Boss berates me for being late. There was an 8 a.m. meeting that I needed to be there for. Note, he never told me about the 8 a.m. meeting beforehand. 3. On that Monday when I started, I let him know that I had to go to my old employer, pick up my stuff, and give notice. At first, he told me not to, but then relented. 4. I left 2 hours early to go to my old employer. On Tuesday, my new boss told me that he wanted to fire me because I left early. Keep in mind, he gave me permission to leave early, but someone else told him to reconsider. And 5, the entire reason he wanted me there immediately was because someone else, let's call him Rick, was leaving and the boss needed me to take over immediately. I talked to Rick and he told me that he was still there for a week and a half and had plenty of time to get me up to speed. In other words, there was no urgency whatsoever. This was during the recession, so it took me about 4 months to find another job. But during the 4 months I was at the job, he ended up firing 4 people. This was in an office of 7 people. What was your favorite story? Let me know in the comments or share your own. Like and subscribe and catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.